Hello, everyone. Second time today, but actually the first time was an aborted attempt because of Wi-Fi issues. But today, second one is going to go so much better because we've already checked out the Wi-Fi and it's perfect. I'm going to be speaking to Lunar June any minute now, but first, let's have this video. There you are, the Analog Trash Supporters Club. For anybody that doesn't know, it's a wonderful idea. You pay a small amount of money every month and they send you a pink box. And there is stuff inside the pink box as well, just have to clarify that. There's normally things like records or tapes or T-shirts even, pin badges and all sorts of wonderful stuff from bands. Do you like surprises, Luna?
Love surprises.
It's great, isn't it? I think it's quite nice getting a box and not knowing what's going to be in it.
That sounds very exciting. I would like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about independent music, how are you finding it out there, releasing independent music?
I mean, you know, it's not easy. It's especially nowadays, like you have to just kind of do like 10 different full-time jobs, like, you know, marketing and social media and production and, you know, being a multi-instrumentalist, and like there's just like a lot to do. Like even just outside of the actual music creation, there's so much to think about all the time. So yeah, being an independent artist is super challenging, but equally I think having that freedom to always just create what you want to create is so important. And yeah, not having someone telling you, we want the same thing again and again, or write like this person. It's nice to just have the freedom to kind of do whatever I want to do.
Is that the worst possible thing that could happen to you, is to get into a situation where someone asks you to write what you've just written again or write like somebody else?
I don't know. I think I really enjoy writing for other people, so I am quite flexible in that situation. But when it's like my project and my art, I think I would find it hard just to be told to like do the same thing again, or kind of have that like more formulaic approach, because that doesn't feel like art. That just feels like, you know, the cogs of capitalism taking over once again. You know,
How
art.
often do you write for other people?
Quite regularly. I do top lines for like dance artists, like DJs and stuff. And I've done a couple of sessions more like writing pop for other people, but that's something I want to do more of, because I mostly write for others in like a sort of DJ dance capacity, but I really want to start writing more pop music, but for other artists. I think that would be really fun.
Okay, so we've got to ask you, who's the dream person to write for?
Oh, I mean, I don't think she really works with many people, but Lorde would be like insane. She's my favorite ever. But also, I'd love to write with Charlie XCX. I think she's such an amazing pop writer, and I just feel like being in the room with her would be like a magical spiritual experience.
Incredibly prolific as well, isn't she?
So prolific, like has written so many songs that she's like not got her name to it, but then you look at the credits and it's like, oh my god, here she is again.
She's there.
She's there, yeah.
What did you think of the whole thing that she did within lockdown, where she was like, you know, yeah.
I was just shocked at how much content she churned out, but also it was high quality. Like it wasn't just like here's loads, like here's 2 albums but they're shit. It was like here's like loads of really really good music, and I was just like, damn. I was really like in awe of just how quickly she churned out music, from the visuals as well as like the sonics as well. So I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a bit like I've likened it like that before to people that don't really understand, but I think it's a bit like if anyone understands playing sport, it's a bit like if you play sport. If you play, when I was young, I was coached in tennis because I was reasonably good, and I went along to a club every week and I played with people that thrashed the pants off me, to be honest, because they were much better than me. But eventually, over time, you get better because you're playing with people that are above your kind of station, if you like, above your grade, and it just means you have to learn to keep up, etc. Music's a bit like that, isn't it? As well, you don't necessarily want to sort of play in that stream forever. You want to work with people that go, I want to push you to the next level, you know.
Yeah, I think like I don't know who said it, but I know that there's like some kind of saying around you should be like the least experienced person in the room or something, because that's how you learn. Like you shouldn't feel like the sort of like biggest person in the room who's done the most or like is the best. It's kind of like, yeah, I think way more productive to be surrounded by people that are better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you enjoy most in terms of the learning bit, the progression bit, etc.? Are you quite geeky? Do you quite like learning new bits of software or new bits of kit, or are you?
Yeah, I think I, so I'm really into the production side of things as well. And whenever I'm working with like different producers, I'm always like, oh, what plugin is that? That's really cool because I love how production, how like much that influences the writing process, and just how much it can completely change and transform a song. So if there's something a bit new that I've not come across before, I'm always a bit of a nerd about that. But yeah, I think production is like a place that I love to learn the most, just because it feels like that's such an endless like black hole of potential and areas to explore. I feel like it's kind of boundless. So that's yeah one of my most favorite bits to
Yeah,
get nerdy about.
we have a question from the audience, which sometimes they're rubbish, sometimes they're great. This one's not a bad question at all. Mike, who's a voiceover actor, which is an interesting job in its own right, says, my question, since music is the language of emotion, do you ever write from the emotion of anger, hate? I mean, hate. I think hate's a strong word anyway, I think.
Yeah, I definitely do. I think in the last 6 months or so, that's come out a lot more. I think I was always like, a lot of people who meet me are like, "You're so chill and relaxed." I'm like, on the outside, yes, but on the inside, there's a
But
lot
don't
of
mess!
yeah, there's a lot of emotions going on, and I think I've always found anger to be such a difficult emotion to healthily process. Whereas, so I never wrote about anger ever, but in the last sort of year, 6 months, I've really gotten into writing about like all of my songs are like super angry now, but I kind of love it.
Well, what
I
gets you
think
angry then, Luna? What really
it's
riles you
always
up?
like, relationship stuff or like I think feeling really like I'm getting left behind. I don't know, like I'm in my like mid 20s and I think I have such a fear of the future and life and I'm just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing and I always feel like I'm kind of like drowning. So I think I channel a lot of my angst into my songwriting.
Do you ever? I have to ask that question. Do you ever watch any of those reality TV shows to do with relationships then, and think and get angry with them on those TV shows because you just think, oh, that's so unrealistic, or it's giving a perception of relationships which isn't right and is causing a problem for people, or do you watch those programs and just get angry at certain characters and use that as a
Yeah,
part of the cathartic experience? Just
that's actually
interested.
that's an interesting question. I think I've not thought about it as literally as that. I think rather than like reality TV, I get more angry at like the books and the films and the TV shows that I grew up with that have definitely given me such an unrealistic expectation of relationships. But also, like, social media does that as well. Like, there's always like couples on TikTok or Instagram that are like showcasing their perfect, dreamy life in their big house with like two dogs, and it just seems like great. Obviously, that's not the whole picture of the relationship, and I think, yeah,
Well, it's
relationships are
so
definitely a
great that they're actually got a camera in front of their face 24 hours a day, 7 days a week,
yeah.
which means they can't even go for a crap without having a camera on, which to me sounds like the most abysmal life ever.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, and yeah, I think that element of comparison is always something to write about, and the emotions that stirs up, and being angry and emo.
Emo.
Yeah.
Has anyone levied sort of emo at you as an artist?
Have they what? Sorry.
Has anyone sort of actually sort of tried to pigeonhole you as emo as an artist ever?
No, definitely not. They're always like soft, dreamy electro pop, and I'm like, yeah, it is, but the lyrics are actually super
But the
emo.
lyrics are emo.
Yeah.
I've got to ask you this because I've talked to quite a number of young artists about this recently. Do you then find it when you've got to put your music out on the different platforms and whatever, and you've got to like choose three things to upload it as, or whatever the genre bit to, do you find that hard?
Yeah, it's difficult, especially because now the music that I'm making is becoming, it's kind of incorporating more organic instruments. Like in my previous project, it was very electronic based, whereas now I'm starting to use guitars, bass, drums, as well as all the synths and the sample packs and all of that kind of stuff. So trying to explain that it's like kind of dance, but also kind of indie, kind of hyper pop is like. But I love that about music nowadays, is that I feel like it just completely is such a melting pot of every different genre and influence, which is what makes it interesting and exciting, I guess.
Yeah. That's funny. It's interesting you're saying that you're sort of moving slightly away from the pure electronica and trying to incorporate more sort of organic or, you know, real instrument sound. What's your relationship like then with, because your music has got a lot of electronic elements, but what's your, as a person, what's your relationship like with technology? Do you, is it kind of love hate? Are there elements of it that you really love and then elements of it that you kind of hate or just want to rebel against? You know, I've seen with a lot of artists that started off quite electronic based or whatever, then they kind of, at some point in their career, they kind of rediscover, you know, those old albums or whatever, and the sounds of those old albums, and they want to kind of go back to that, but not just in terms of their music. They then start to find a different way on things like social media, etc. as well, and they don't necessarily want to, you know, use the algorithm all of the time. They want to try and create something different. Is that how you feel about it all?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I kind of relate to what you said about it's a love-hate relationship. Like, in so many ways, I really appreciate technology and, you know, all of the sort of advances it's made in the last couple of decades are like insane, but also really freaks me out. Like, I don't love all the AI stuff, especially how that's sort of bleeding into music. I'm like, stay away. You don't need any of that here. And yeah, social media is so difficult because it's like, in one way, yeah, it's like this amazing place where you can reach hundreds of thousands of people, and like you never know where it might land. But then it's also like the sheer like mental sort of capacity to do that every single day and constantly be pushing that and creating content, which is a full-time job, alongside trying to preserve your art and your creative brain and your energy to actually make music. It's so taxing. Like, it's really difficult. And like, I know that might sound like a bit of like a stupid problem to have in many ways, but it's like when you really care about the music and that's what you want to do with your life, like that's the job you want, but you're having to like like wear 10 different hats all the time just for people to like take you seriously or even contemplate appreciating or sort of consuming your art. So yeah, I don't know, it's hard. And I think in terms of artists gradually reaching for more organic instruments, I know for me it's because I am finding them just a lot more cathartic in where I'm at in my life. I think like I want that really like tangible, visceral thing of like picking up a guitar and like going for it. And the energy that brings to a song, I think is really kind of like you can't ever really replace that. Which I guess is why, you know, we still listen to music from 50, 60 years ago or whatever, you know, like it still hits because it was, yeah, made with real instruments, and that's never gonna go away, I don't think.
I'm going to have to be really careful about how I say this, but I think, you know, from my own experience, when I first started making music, it was electronic based. And that's because for me, I couldn't play anything. I mean, I tried, Luna, I really did. I tried so hard at primary school to play the recorder, and I absolutely sucked at it. You know, I sat there for hours sweating in assembly, surrounded, I have to say, by a group of girls. I think I was probably the only boy in the group, just miming, you know, in assembly because they could all read music and keep up with the notes, and I couldn't. So it was kind of like, I am playing really. And it kind of just got me to a point where I was kind of terrified about actually trying to play an instrument or whatever. And it wasn't until middle school when and I was a bit of a computer a geek, really. And my music teacher, thanks music teacher, by the way, if you're still alive, it dragged me out of maths one day and said, this boy can program a computer, and we've just bought a new music computer and we don't know how it works. And so I got to play with it, and I suddenly discovered I could make music because by plumbing in the notes, and it didn't really matter that I couldn't play it, you know, live or whatever. But I was going to say, but then later on, for me it was all about learning guitar and, you know, real instruments and everything. But, you know, keyboards are real instruments, folks. But part of the reason for that, I think, was because it's the same way as I almost feel like as a creator now, and in the space where, you know, AI is coming in thick and fast. I just looked at a new bit of software this afternoon, and it's like, drop 3 bits of this here and we make a video for you, and, you know, plumb this in here and we'll make a song for you. And it's just like, wow, amazing. But the problem is that you get to this point where you feel like everybody's trying to do it. Everybody's trying to make art, and everybody thinks that they're an artist or they're a creative. And to some extent, everybody is. But there are people that don't have any talent in that area whatsoever. And it gets a bit frustrating, doesn't it? Because it's like, that's not all that this is about. Creating something really good and really new and pushing the boundaries with art does require that creative juice within you, and not everybody's got that. And I think it's frustrating sometimes for creatives being in a space where technology is just saying everybody can do it, everybody can do it, and it's easy. And then it kind of leads to people going, well, why should I pay for someone to write music or do this or whatever? Because anyone can do it. So, you know, is it actually worth? But it is, because if you really love what somebody's doing and it, you know, it takes you to a different place, you should be paying for that, you know. I don't know. I'm waffling now, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think I'm definitely of the ethos of like, I think we are, like, everyone is like inherently creative, and I think that can often be like sort of bashed out of us as we grow up. And I think it's really important for everyone to connect with that sort of like play of being creative. But obviously, that doesn't mean that it has to be everyone's job. I think it's just really important that people definitely connect with their creativity. But like you said, what freaks me out is when it gets into that territory of like getting machines and AI and stuff to do it instead. Because I'm like, the whole point of it being art is that it's like human and really messy and sort of imperfect, very flawed, and you can't get that. You just don't get that from AI. Like AI stuff, music that I've listened to, I'm like, you can tell that this wasn't made by a person. um, so yeah, I really hope that it doesn't become too much of a thing, and like you said, it just devalues the art that people spend their lifetimes sort of crafting. So yeah.
As you've grappled with that, has that changed your listening at all? Because I'd be interested to know that as well. I feel my listening ear in terms of music has changed over the years, and that actually I think, you know, one of the things that I find as I get older, and I'm getting older, but one of the things that I find myself, as much as I really love really great pop music, and I think really great pop music, it's really hard to do as well. I also find myself drawn to stuff that is really imperfect and really, you know, where someone's got a voice which is like, someone might go, well, that's awful as a voice, but or that's, you know, or there's that, you know, there's an element to it which is like, or you're listening to a song, and even if it's a really well crafted song, it's electronic or whatever, there's something in there that's like difficult to begin with, and you kind of hold on to that difficult bit, and you go, actually, I really love that because it's I'm having to learn to like it, and I really enjoy the fact I'm being sonically challenged here. Do you find that with yourself, with your own listening, and is that kind of bleeding into your work?
Yeah, definitely. Like I remember, like I only really got into Charlie XCX maybe in the last couple of years, and before that, I was always a bit like, I don't know if it's for me. Like that sort of almost quite like sounding, metallic sounds. Yeah, like her music's very sort of like, I don't know what the right words are. Yeah, just like metallic is the only word that comes
Almost
to mind.
industrial, isn't it?
Yeah, like super industrial, and I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I didn't used to. Like I used to really enjoy the more sort of like soft, accessible, easily digestible sounds, but now I love stuff that's like gritty and a bit like jarring almost.
I'm gonna give you an album at this point, because I always try and I don't. You might go, oh, I've heard of them, yeah, brilliant. But I always try and give people that come on, musicians that come on, an album or a song or something,
Love
you know,
that. Yeah.
to go away and go, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to that. Have you heard of this? Have you heard this?
No, who is it?
So this is a band called PVA, and this is the album Blush.
Oh, okay.
All right. It talk about industrial sounding, awkward, but you'll just get it. You can dance to it. You can certainly dance to it, but it's, you know, and if you want to as well, if you buy it on the record, look, it's pink. It's actually,
Oh,
yeah,
gotta buy it now.
is pink. But yeah, I mean, I just think there's sometimes it's those little things in music where you discover something where there's something about it that just wants your ear to keep coming back to it and just reconcile it a little bit. I think makes it special,
Yeah.
you know. And
It takes a couple of listens to sort of get your head in that world. I think that's the thing that I love is like when, because obviously like music creates its own world, and I think when you don't first like instantly get it, it's a bit like, oh, but then when you get it and you're in this whole new world, it's like, wow, this is like amazing. And then
you
you're like
mentioned
hooked
Lorde
into it.
earlier as well. I mean, I think she does that by, it's almost that you can hear the way that she writes as well, because she typically writes by vocal, doesn't she? As well. But there's a lot of space in her songs, an awful lot of space in her songs, and you just think somebody else would just fill that, all of that space, and it would just be more standard pop. But it's not. There's the space is in there. The space actually brings her voice right out of it, and you just think, oh my goodness, that's where this is working at a different level from some of the other stuff that you hear. And for me, I always think as a creative and an artist or whatever, it's about trying to find those what elevates this beyond everything else that's just out there. Yeah, and I think you're getting there with that, which
Thanks.
is
I'm trying.
yeah, absolutely. What's the biggest challenge for you now writing?
In writing, I think, well, I finished writing my second EP, so that's kind of done. And I always find it a bit difficult when I'm moving on to like the next phase. It's like I kind of box things off in my head of like, okay, that's EP1, that's that world, right? EP2, this world. So now I think I'm just going to work on some singles for a while, but it's kind of like, where do they want to exist? What world is that? And that's kind of where I'm at right now, which is like the most, I guess, frustrating part, but also the best and most exciting part, because you just don't know where you're going to go. So yeah, I actually have no idea what the next like sort of phase of stuff is going to sound like, but I'm really excited to, I guess, like, yeah, uncover that.
Are you into eras?
As in like having, or like Taylor Swift, or
Yeah,
like having
well, it just seems like everybody's now into, you know. For me, it was literally just, you know, one album after another. You know, when I was growing up, and artists were like, well, you know, there's this album, and then they've changed for this next album. But nowadays we seem to talk about eras. I think ever since Taylor discovered calling it eras, we're now into kind of eras. But are you into eras, or are you know, do you want to call it something else?
Yeah, I think, I mean, Taylor's definitely got the Eras title, but I think, yeah, like you said, like bands and artists have done that since forever. Like if you look at like Bowie and stuff, like different alter ego, like for different eras, like, you know. So I think, yeah, that's definitely not like a new concept. And I think, I don't know, I'm just like, I guess it does go by eras, but I'm not sure what. I maybe just call it phases, worlds. I don't know, different worlds. I don't know.
In your head, as you're being creative with this, have you ever sat there and gone, the furthest out I think I could go is, and then have you constructed, like, you know, at some point I'm going to do a country album, I'm going to dress Dolly Parton, or, you know, is there, where's in your head, when you've thought about it, where's the furthest out from where you are now that you think that you could be?
I don't know. I think like I'm really interested in blending the sort of more aggressive hyper pop with organic instruments and kind of seeing what happens from that.
Wow.
That's kind of where I'm headed, just because of what I love to listen to and what inspires me. Like, I really love like Charlie, but I also really love like Holly Humberstone, and I kind of want to marry to, obviously not making their music, but taking the inspirations from them and drawing something completely new and different. So I think with my first and second EP, I just wanted to lay a foundation of, this is who I am. I exist. This is me. And kind of giving people a bit of like a insight into the world that I'm beginning to create. But I think after that, I kind of want to go a bit more niche, but also like I still want to make pop music because I love making pop. Yeah.
Would that take you away from being a solo artist, do you think, at any point? Could you ever see yourself working as part of a group, or part of a bigger entity within
I
that?
don't think so. Like, I love collaborating, like with producers and writers, and I have like a band that I perform live with. But
Maybe a
honestly,
cat?
maybe a cat. I just, I've like tried bands before, and I can't cope with the different opinions all the time. And I just want to be able to be like, this is what we're doing. And obviously, I'm like when I collaborate with producers, I love that. Of here's a different idea. What about this? But ultimately, it's like my song. You know, I bring what I want to the table, and yeah, I think I just didn't. I don't have the patience for a band, honestly.
Well, what about a a made up band, a bit like the Gorillas or something like that? Where it's kind of your control, but you maybe like create these characters that are,
Maybe
yeah.
could
There's
go
a
down the route of characters. That could be quite cool.
that could be interesting, or even I think I've mentioned it once before. That Tori Amos did an album where each song she inhabited a different character. And on
Oh
the
yeah, I've seen
album
stuff
cover,
like that before. Yeah,
yeah, on well, I think Baby Queen did it as well with like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So but I quite like that idea as well, which is that there's kind of characters in there, and you actually create a visual for those different characters. And I think that
yeah.
that lends itself to things like video and whatever. How do you feel about the sort of bringing together the visual arts with the music?
I find the visuals difficult to execute, but I think that's also partly like being an independent artist and the sort of financial limitations that you can have with that. Like when I'm creating music, I always see the world and I see like, oh, like yeah, this palette and like this setting and like stuff like that. But I find it difficult to execute, so I always need to work with a really good videographer who like gets my vision but can actually bring it to life. Because the ideas are all kind of there, but I just don't know how to actually get it down on metaphorical paper. You
And
know?
that's where the good collaboration stuff comes in. You need those other people that really sort of click with you and almost read your mind
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and pull it out from there. Well, it's been brilliant talking to you today. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
No,
dropping
thank
in.
you.
What what are you most looking forward to? Because we're getting towards the end of this year now, which is crazy. It's
Mental.
almost Christmas. Would you ever do? There's a good one for you. Would you ever do a Christmas song? I
I
do.
mean,
I
I'd give
do.
it a crack.
Well, like, because I just feel like a lot of Christmas songs have sort of hung around like a bad smell for a long time now. I do think it's always nice when you get sort of a next generation of artists give it a go and see if they can.
Yeah, I just think it's so hard to beat the classics. Like,
Well, is it though? I mean, what you've got to consider is that every single one of those people that wrote those songs, well, not everyone, but some of them were, they were intentional about it. But quite often when you hear the stories of those great Christmas songs, they were quite accidental. They had that kind of song. It was around kind of Christmas time, and they just kind of, because it was kind of Christmas time, they kind of put the sleigh bell sounds in there.
yeah.
And then there it was, the Christmas song, and then it became a classic. You
And
know,
then, like, you just make so much money every year. Like, your PRS
yeah.
statement is
Oh,
insane.
yeah, the crazy one. If you ever get to watch the video of, well, you probably won't, but Chris Rea talking about driving home for Christmas, that was literally, he was going to give up music, and then
Really? Oh
yeah,
my God.
and then that song, and then it just, and as he says in the interview, it's paid for a lot of Christmases since.
Yeah, I bet.
It's
Wow,
just
love
it's just
that.
mad. But yeah, but it was all quite accidental. But yeah, I'd love. I did last year. I had one group in Modesty Blaze, and Johnny had written a Christmas EP, and that was wonderful. It was really quite new and different, and but had those kind of great Christmas elements to it. I think it'd be nice. I've got a My Music podcast playlist going, and of course I'm going to ask you in a second what track you would like added to that, because that will, you'll be added to the roster as we come off air. But maybe I'd love it if some of the bands that were on did a Christmas one, and then I could start a Christmas playlist as well.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All new Christmas songs.
Yeah, maybe I should. I'll start working on something. I'll let you know.
In your favourite Christmas song of all time, from your point of view, retrospectively, of if you had to cover one.
I don't even know what it's called or who it's by, but I think it's the one that's like, it like talks about 2,000 miles or something.
Yeah, 2,000 miles. It's Proclaimers.
Proclaimers, that's it. That's my.
Oh, not Proclaimers. Pretenders.
I knew it began with a P.
Yeah, Pretenders.
Pretenders, 2,000 miles.
Chrissy Hind. Yeah.
Oh, that is such a gorgeous song. I love that song so much.
Do 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 do. It's got
that melody.
It's a beautiful,
Stunning.
beautiful melody.
Stunning.
I think so. Yeah, it's.
But I also love the Slade song. That's also a favourite.
What? It's Christmas. Yeah. I mean, it's just the shout, isn't it?
It's the best bit. I love that.
Noddy
song.
Holder's shout, and to me, that shout starts Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. As I say, you've been a fantastic guest today. Before you go, and people will obviously want to then go and check out your music, and of course you can check out a track of Lunar's on the My Music podcast playlist, which then gets you going, because you can then click through and then find the artist. And when you do pre-save when they've got new material, and do follow them as well, because it really helps, as opposed to just streaming the odd song or so. What are we looking forward to from you in 2024?
So 2024 will be my second EP release, sort of towards the beginning of the year. And beyond that, don't actually really know, because I'm kind of like working on new stuff, but there'll definitely be lots of new music. And I think I'll be really sort of like finding my feet then as well with who I am and what I want to sound like. I'll definitely be playing a lot more shows, because I've kind of taken a bit of a break from shows for the last couple of years, post-COVID and all that. But yeah, next year there'll be plenty of gigs. Where
do you tend to gig? Where do you tend to gig?
Well, I've been living in Brighton for the last 7 years, so I gigged a lot there, but also in London where I now live. So yeah, mostly sort of the south, but I'd love to go on a tour, would love to do all of those things, so hopefully it's going to be more than just Brighton and London.
Yeah. You know that, I don't know whether you saw it yesterday, but you know the lottery winners are looking for people to support them on their next tour.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, there you go. Tom put out a little video message in the hope of trying to support more independent artists.
Oh, that's so great. I love that.
They are going to, they're asking people, if you're willing to do it, why wouldn't you be, to actually let them know, so that they will listen to your music,
okay. I'm gonna check that out.
Potentially put you on the list, and then you could be touring the whole of the UK next year.
Oh, that's the dream. That's the dream.
There you go. There we go. Let's make dreams happen. Luna, you've been an absolutely brilliant guest. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
People, if you've enjoyed this, do share it with your friends, your family, dead friends as well. I mean, anybody really, as long as they're still paying the bills, and tell people about other people's music, because artists like Luna, they spend a long time, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, effort making this stuff. And as I say on all of these shows, the black box in the corner of the room that you shout at and you get the name wrong, it doesn't just make that music, believe it or not. You paying your 12 quid a month or whatever it is, doesn't pay the artist. It really doesn't. So if you can at all, at any point, buy them a coffee, send them a little bit of money, buy a t-shirt, go to a gig. All of that really does make a difference. And if nothing else, actually tell them that you like their music and follow them on those platforms. Until next time, this has been My Music with me, Graham Cave. Keep listening to some great music out there. Bye for now.